Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony the Big's dance is set. You excited?
Tony Kornheiser. Did someone say dance? Hit it, boys. Penguin dance. Here we go. Turn it to the right a little bit. Come back, slow it down. Speed it up again. The penguin dance, good for whatever ails you, kids. Whatever ails you.
I thought that dance was retired. I thought it was in mothballs.
No. Yeah, I'm in mothballs. I'm about to retire, but the dance is always welcome on this show, don't you think? Really? No, I'm staying in the house. I'm just not being on the show. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Bears trade Justin Fields to the Steelers. Scotty Scheffler wins again, and Kyrie Irving beats the buzzer. But we begin today with the NCAA basketball tournament. The men's number one seeds are UConn, Houston, Purdue, and North Carolina. 3 of those 4 lost over the weekend. None of them has fewer than 3 losses. North Carolina has 7 losses. Wilbon, what are your biggest takeaways from the bracket?
Tony, I think that I was annoyed at a couple of things. Let's start with UConn, which is supposed to be the overall number one seed. And yet they they have the hardest road. Why is that? If somebody's your overall number one seed, can't you sit in that room and balance the field? Can't you do that just sequestered for days and weeks? What are we talking about here? And then there's some teams I think were snubbed, some schools. I'm not going to go crazy on this, but Indiana State and Pitt, I thought, belong in. I realize there's some teams like North Carolina State, which by, jumping up and surprising everybody and winning the ACC tournament in Washington, they got a bid that you weren't counting on, and I understand you got to take it off the board from somebody else. But I think that those shouldn't have been Pitt and Indiana State. It just shouldn't be the case, Tony. So those 2 things annoy me that you can't balance it with UConn. I would start there. I think the 1 seeds are legit, maybe. North Carolina, perhaps overly rewarded, perhaps, but we'll get to see about that.
Yeah, I love this show because I can honestly disagree with you about something. I'm not going to sit here and bleed for teams that didn't get in. You mentioned Pitt and you mentioned Indiana State. Other people are talking about
St. John's.
St. John's being in that situation. Yeah. Maybe other Big East teams are in that situation. Look, I feel very clearly about this. There are 68 teams in this thing. 68. You want to get in, win more games. The opportunity was there for you. I'm a little bit surprised that only 3 Big East teams are in because the Big East over the last 25 or 30 years has won a lot of national championships. But my sense is that Georgetown and DePaul are just so dreadful that they drag the rest of the thing down. I'm a little surprised. The Mountain West got 6 teams in.
Mountain West is
I can't name 6 Mountain West teams. I can't even name 3 Mountain West teams. I think the feel-good story is Duquesne. Duquesne hadn't been in 47 years. People don't even know where Duquesne is. They don't realize it's in Boston. That's a joke. Oops. It's in Pittsburgh. I understand that. I think though that UConn and Houston and Purdue were the top of the food chain the whole year, so I sort of expect the winner to maybe come from there. I understand North Carolina. North Carolina got the number 1 seed when they went into Cameron and beat Duke before the tournament began because
Tennessee lost to NC State.
I know, but so did Tennessee and Arizona also lost, so they were they were the competition. Maybe you could say Iowa State, but I think Carolina's more glamorous than Iowa State. I do.
We're rewarding glamour now? Huh?
Yeah.
If we're going to do that, come on. Glamour. Stop. Let's move to the women's draw, where unbeaten South Carolina was named the overall number 1 seed. Joining the Gamecocks as 1 seeds are Iowa, Southern Cal, and Texas, which edged out Stanford. Defending champion LSU landed a 3 seed in the same region as Iowa, the team the Tigers beat for the title last season. Tony, I got big problems with the women's bracket. Do you have some of these same issues?
I don't know how many you've got. I've got one very clear issue here. I don't know how you can construct a bracket that would have Iowa and LSU in the same region and have to play a knockout game before the Final Four. I don't know how you can look at teams with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, the 2 most popular, well-known, and accomplished players in the entire country, and put them in a position that one of them has to go out before the Final Four, to use a word that you love to use on the show. It's simply stupid. You're trying to grow your game. You want eyeballs on your game. At least if you get a South Carolina in the final, you could conceivably get either Iowa or LSU against them, and that would bring a lot of eyeballs to the set. I think some people might have quibbled a little bit with the fact that Texas is a number one, right, and Stanford isn't, but they're in the same region, so that's going to become a moot point at some point.
Tony, yes, to everything you said. I'm just looking at this. This alone gets me set off. UCLA's number a 2 seed in the same as Iowa, same bracket, as part of the bracket as Iowa. LSU's a 3, and Kansas State, which I was already played twice and split games with, is a 4. What are you doing? What are you doing? So basically, Tony, to me, and I know these are very smart people individually, but collectively, that room was plagued by dumb. That room has done everything it can to sabotage a product which has saved college basketball this year. Because the men's product was, let me use another word I use often on this show, the men's game this season was junk. That's what it was. Now, March may turn us around from that, and it may be the only thing we remember ultimately. The regular season of men's college basketball was nothing. The women were fabulous, and yet you have now pitted teams against each other as if you didn't know what you were doing. Do you ever pick up a phone if you're in the room and say, hey, let me run something past you? It's just unbelievably dumb that they can't look at their own work and say, wait a minute, let's go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I think Caitlin Clark is the biggest star. I think South Carolina is the biggest story. They're 103-3 in the last 3 years. I think I'd like to see them win. That's like UConn territory, 103-3. We move now to the resolution of Justin Fields and the Bears. The Bears traded Fields to Pittsburgh over the weekend, making clear their intention to draft a quarterback at number 1. The Bears got a 6th-round pick for Fields that could move up to a 4th, depending on Fields' playing time. Wilbon, does it feel like your Bears got enough?
No. No, conditional 6 is not what you're looking for. And you're just not. I mean, from the time that there's talk about this. But, Tony, a market sort of sets itself, and the Bears alone can't mess with that. If you're talking about having 4 or 5 or more quarterbacks drafted in the first round, or the first round and the first couple picks of the second round, then that changes the market for Justin Fields. Some teams may say, wait a minute, before I give up this, I'll give up a 2nd or a 3rd, but I can draft my own quarterback. So you have some issues there. You have Kirk Cousins moving. You have some issues that directly affected the Bears and their ability to make a deal for Fields. And I know, look, Tony, part of the big story in Chicago is the notion of doing right by Justin Fields. And some people may frown at that and say, wait a minute, you better do what's right for your team. A team has to look at the population of players who are looking at a team wondering how are they going to treat him. The Bears have to do business beyond this week and this month and this draft. And you want to have it out there that you think for other players around the league that the Bears will do right by you. They did right by Justin Fields to some degree. So some people that may not resonate with, I do understand it while I was hoping for more in the way of compensation. Yeah. Like, I don't know, a 3rd-round pick I was hoping for wasn't to be.
Yeah, I'm stunned. I'm stunned by this story. 1, because Pittsburgh took him. Last week, Pittsburgh got Russell Wilson, so that stunned me. 2, because he fetched a 6th-round pick. I mean, he's been pretty good, and he started for 3 years in the league. Mac Jones started for 3 years in the league. He fetched a 6th-round pick, but he was clearly on the decline. Kenny Pickett got a 3rd-round pick. There was all this drama about Justin Fields, and there was no market. I think they waited way too long. I think they waited for too many free agents to move. I think they should have done it earlier. Now, I also don't get what Pittsburgh is doing. I mean, Russell Wilson, this seems to me to be a direct attack on Russell Wilson when you bring in Justin Fields. It seems to me that Pittsburgh is hedging its bet, saying, I don't know if Russell Wilson can actually be the guy. And it leads me to believe, as I've told you privately, that by the 6th game of the season, Fields may well be the starter there.
Tony,
first of all,
let me mention this. The pick is conditional, so it could be a 4th. But Russell Wilson's a stopgap move. He's a bridge. Russell Wilson, if he has 2 good years left, Fields will still be 26. and can then play. I'm sure Mike Tomlin's looking. 60 people started at quarterback last year. Most people don't have Patrick Mahomes, and they need 2. The Bears certainly started, 2 or 3 people at quarterback. You need more than 1. And Russell Wilson isn't Russell Wilson from 2013. 3. So if you can have,
I'm just surprised.
And Tony, they paid nothing for him. They got a 6th round. They paid Russ $1 million.
Nothing. They got them for free. I'm just surprised. I'm just surprised at it because of the proximity of acquiring one and then acquiring the other. Let's take a break. Coming up is Scottie Scheffler on his way to becoming a dominating golfer.
And what's the word for the shot that Kyrie hit to beat the Nuggets yesterday?
Are you sure they're going to draft Caleb Williams, or will they trade down one slot to Washington and draft the LSU kid? Are you sure it's Caleb Williams?
I'm not sure of anything. At this point, Chicago's expecting Caleb Williams.
Time to hear from the herd in mail time. Let me get first one. Go to the glasses. What does winning the Players' Championship tell you about Scottie Scheffler?
A lot, including he was just physically and mentally tougher than you can expect a person to be. Tony, the crook in his neck or whatever that was that had him barely able to take the club back on Friday. He couldn't even turn. He had to turn his whole upper body to see the ball. And it was amazing to watch him struggle through that, get through it, and then shoot 64 in the final round of the Players. And that putt doesn't tell me anything about Scottie Scheffler. It tells you about how a tournament can end and the frustration of it, and we've all been there, even weekend hackers. But Scottie Scheffler, Tone, he's the number 1 dude in the world. Until they can figure out a way to get him and John Rahm in more than 4 tournaments a year, it's Scottie Scheffler.
Yeah, so we're sort of aligned on this, sort of. What winning the Players tells me about Scottie Scheffler is that he is either the number 1 player in the world or he isn't, because John Rahm is, and we don't know at the moment. Okay, and we don't want this situation where the only time they play is 4 times a year.
No,
nobody wants that. This was a great leaderboard. This was a great tournament. Scottie Scheffler had a great Sunday, 8 under on Sunday, but I thought the absence of Rahm sort of loomed over it. It wasn't like Rory and Spieth, who weren't on the leaderboard because they weren't good enough at that point. He wasn't even in the tournament. Still, there was all the drama in the world, Mike. It comes down to the last 2 holes. You get Schauffele on 17, and you get Harman and Clark on 18 with makeable putts to cause a playoff here. They were all close. Clark's was in. It did a 270.
It's in the hole.
It went 3/4 of the way around and came out. It was a stunning ending, and I thought a very satisfying tournament, particularly for Scheffler. I agree with that part.
Who, by the way, won twice in a row. Nobody had done that at the Players. Won back-to-back. Scheffler has now.
And 2 in a row.
He's the guy
also
going
2
into
in a row
the
because he
fat
won the
part of
Arnold
the
Palmer.
season. He's the guy.
That's right. Here's what's next. What's the word you would use to describe Kyrie's shot that beat the Nuggets?
Historic. As in, you and I have been watching basketball, NBA basketball, for, about 120 years. Tony, there's very few, if any. That's a left-handed hook shot from a right-handed guy who's 6'1", over a 7-foot guy, moving to his left. And with rotation, and he watches it all the way in. It's not a prayer. Look, the shot I think is the greatest shot in history in my life is watching Magic Johnson's junior skyhook in Boston. You and I sat and watched that over Bird, Parrish, and McHale in their outstretched hands. But Magic's 6'9". I know Bird, McHale, and Parrish are 6'9", 6'10", 7 feet. But Kyrie's 6 feet tall, a little over 6'1". Historic, Tony. It's one of the 5 or 6 greatest shots I've ever seen, ever. Maybe 2.
Yeah, here comes another honest disagreement. The word I would use is left-handed. It was a wonderful shot. It deserves all the credit in the world. He used his offhand. You can't praise it enough, but here's the but. What it did was decide a regular season game with 14 games left to go in the schedule, right? So was it the junior skyhook? No, it was not. No. Was it Leitner? No, it was not. Was it Jordan over Elo? No, it was not. Was it Chris Jenkins? No. Was it Keith Smart? No. It wasn't even Kyrie making a shot to win the championship for Cleveland. It was a dramatic shot, but not a dramatic circumstance. That's what I'm saying.
The circumstance wasn't, Tony,
that, right?
But the creativity, the level of art that this shot was trumps even Kyrie's own shot to beat Golden State. It was art.
And that won a championship.
Yeah, it did.
That won a championship. It's different. It's different. Enough email. Let's take one last break. Still to come. Shohei starts to throw. Could he end up playing the field for the Dodgers? Wow.
And could Zion really have lost 25 pounds since the in-season tournament? All you got to do is look at him. Just look at him.
You're the one who always says he's out all night eating. You say this all the time. He eats at every restaurant in New Orleans twice. How can he lose the weight?
All you got to do is ask the chefs of New Orleans. They'll back that up. That's called confidence.
Time, people. Happy 26th birthday, Emmanuel Class A. The Cleveland closer led the majors in saves the last 2 seasons. Class A had 44 saves last season and a 3.22 ERA. In 2022, he had 42 saves and a 1.36 ERA. By the end of this season, Class A could pass Cody Allen as the all-time franchise leader in saves. Allen had 149 saves, Class A 110. Class A is regularly in high-leverage situations, as Cleveland led the American League in one-run games with 58. Class A, who has been an all-star the last 2 seasons, leads the AL in appearances over the last 3 seasons with 223 and posted a 1.97 ERA over that stretch. That's good.
So, Tony, apparently it's not just Trout and Ohtani whose brilliance is limited to the regular season. There are other people out there that get talked about and, praised a lot less and deserve a lot more, and their season's in the 1st of October as well.
Yeah. Happy anniversary, Jordan Poole. Around this day 6 years ago, the then Michigan freshman hit a catch-and-shoot 3 at the buzzer to give the Wolverines a 1-point win over Houston in the 2nd round of the NCAA tournament. Michigan made it all the way to the national final that year. Poole went on to the Warriors and performed well in the Warriors' title run, averaging 17 points, shooting 51% from the field, 39 from 3. But that notorious confrontation in practice with Draymond Green led to Poole being exiled to Washington. A few weeks ago, Poole was taken out of the starting lineup and told to make something happen with the 2nd unit. Washington is the worst team in basketball. Poole had 31 last night, and of course the Wizards lost at home by 26.
Tony, I thought and still think that Poole, while there seem to be issues like, surrounding him, could help. When you can shoot like that, when you can score like he can and has done that for a championship team, it seems like you can help somebody. And somebody might want to say to the Wizards, listen, I'll give you some future considerations. I'll take Jordan Poole now, but that didn't happen before the deadline. Maybe it'll happen this summer.
Happy trails, Dan Monson. Last week, Long Beach State announced veteran basketball coach Monson would not be returning. Monson had coached the Beach for 17 seasons. This one was ending badly with 5 losses in a row, but Monson was allowed to coach the Beach in the Big West tournament, and guess what? They won. They're in the NCAAs for the first time since 2012. Monson may or may not be a lame duck coach right now. The Beach will play Arizona in the 1st round Thursday and is likely to lose. But Monson, who took Gonzaga to the round of 8 25 years ago, is thrilled to have one more game. He said, quote, "There's nothing I'd rather do than coach in the NCAA tournament," unquote.
Tony, if I'm Monson, I tell Long Beach State to get lost. There got to be some other suitors. When you wind it up like this, and we don't know what's going to happen in that one game, but we saw what happened. He was still able to inspire those kids to play for him in a completely impossible situation. So he ought to be chased. People ought to want his services.
He wants to keep coaching. It's a great story. I think Long Beach State should eat some crow and hire him back. One correction. Emmanuel Class A Wilbon made the playoffs with Cleveland in 2022. And one omission, former number 2 overall pick Chase Young signed with the Saints. That'll be his 3rd team in about an hour and a half. We're running out of time. We go to the big finish. Brian Lindhorst says he has people telling him that Zion has lost 25 pounds since the in-season tournament. Your thoughts?
Tony, we know this. I mean, if he can stay away from the great chefs of New Orleans, he's going to be better off. And if he's in shape, they're a problem. New Orleans, the Pelicans are. With Zion leading the way, the Dodgers say Shohei will soon start a throwing program that might allow him to play in the field this season. You excited about that?
I'm excited about everything he does. If he wants to model clothes, I'd be excited. Carlos Alcaraz and Iga Swiatek won at Indian Wells. Are you impressed?
Indian Wells is a big deal. And you knew that, it wasn't going to be Joker because he was walking around Staples or whatever they call that now for NBA games. Like, whoa, he's not at Indian Wells. Yes, because he lost early. Joey Votto homered on the first pitch he saw at Blue Jays spring training. Is that significant?
Yeah, he hit 202 last year. It is significant. Last one, Knicks and Warriors tonight. Who you got?
It's decidedly not a ball night if you get ready for a big ball week. That's a good one, Tone. Knicks are playing well. Warriors just come off a big win. A ball game, not a ball night.
Who you got? Who you got?
Warriors.
Out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcasts. And now, here's T.I.
All right, Wilbon. How confident are you that the Russell Wilson-Justin Fields duo will succeed in Pittsburgh?
Tony, I don't know that I want to use the word confident, but I like what the Steelers are doing here. I like what they're doing in large part because of the structure they have. I mean, historically, and not structure just like here and there. This is their culture. People talk about, Miami Heat culture. Okay, the Pittsburgh Steelers have one as well. And I like that these two guys are going to play for Mike Tomlin. And Russell Wilson doesn't have forever and a day. He may have a couple of years. He may not. But let's just say in the best possible case scenario for Russell Wilson, here's a couple of good seasons. So Justin Fields will be what? In his mid-20s, still 26? Even if he sat for a couple of years and learned and got better. And I don't know that the coaching he got in Chicago, that was a big part of my problem, that if Justin Fields had been coached the way he should have been in Chicago, maybe the Bears wouldn't have gotten rid of him. But I think he's going to get the benefit of that in Pittsburgh. I like what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh really had no choice. If I'm correct on this, they traded away Kenny Pickett. Mason Rudolph left in free agency, and they got rid of Mitch Trubisky as well. So they had no quarterbacks coming back. So the only thing that bothers me about this is if I'm Russell Wilson, and I'm a sensitive guy, as Russell Wilson is, and I wear my emotions on my sleeve so that everybody can see, he does.
He does.
And within a week of Pittsburgh bringing me in, they then bring in Justin Fields. To me, if I'm Russell Wilson, I may see that as a threatening move. I may see that Pittsburgh has no particular confidence in me. I may see it that way. I think these two quarterbacks are better than all three quarterbacks that Pittsburgh had last year. But, Mike, it's not going to surprise me even a little if by the 6th week of the season, Justin Fields is actually the starter there. I could see that happening.
Tony, if you're right about Russell Wilson and all that we know historically, going back to Seattle, when his teammates would criticize him on teams that went to the Super Bowl. If Russell Wilson can't keep those things in check now in his mid-30s, then get out. You know why we can say get out? Because we got a guy. We got a guy who's rushed for 1,000 yards. We got a guy who got better from his second to third year. We got a guy maybe the Bears shouldn't have gotten rid of. So if Russell Wilson can't contain that or harness it, hit the road, dude. You got to have two quarterbacks now. 60 guys started a quarterback in the NFL last year. Good for the Steelers. Good. That's it. We're done. Back to you.